Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel ACO Guntoy, an infantry officer. Over the past week, Russian armed forces conducted sustained offensive operations across all major axes, establishing control over three settlements: Gravskoy in Kharkiv Oblast, Karpovka in the Donetsk People's Republic, Krasnoznamenka in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, and Rizhdianka in Zaporizhia Oblast. The week was characterized by two massive and six-group strikes against Ukrainian defense industry, energy, fuel, and transport infrastructure, coupled with intense ground pressure. Reported Ukrainian personnel losses exceed 8,900 across all sectors, with the heaviest fighting concentrated in Donetsk and Zaporizhia.
Colonel, let's begin with the strategic opening. The briefing states, from 21 to 27 February, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out two massive and six-group strikes, which hit enterprises of the Ukrainian defense industry, energy, fuel, and transport infrastructure facilities used for the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine, production, storage, preparation, and launch sites of attack unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as temporary deployment areas of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries. That's a comprehensive target list. Can you walk us through the operational logic of each target set?
This is a textbook example of a strategic shaping campaign. Let's break down each target set and understand its purpose. First, enterprises of the Ukrainian defense industry. This is an attack on Ukraine's ability to generate its own combat power. Ukraine has built a significant domestic defense industry, producing everything from drones to armored vehicles to artillery ammunition. By striking these enterprises, Russia is trying to reduce the flow of new weapons to Ukrainian forces. This is a long-term play. The effects compound over months, not days. Second, energy, fuel, and transport infrastructure facilities. This is an attack on the logistics network that sustains the entire Ukrainian war effort. Energy powers the factories and railways. Fuel moves the vehicles. Transport infrastructure moves supplies to the front. Degrading any of these slows the entire Ukrainian military machine.
And these strategic strikes set the conditions for the ground operations we're about to discuss?
The fact that this campaign involved two massive and six-group strikes over 7 days tells us that this is not a one-off retaliation. This is a sustained, systematic effort to degrade Ukraine's war-sustaining capacity at every level. The strategic campaign and the ground campaign are two halves of a single whole. The strikes degrade Ukraine's ability to produce weapons, to move supplies, to launch drones, and to generate fresh forces. Then, on a battlefield already shaped by that degradation, Russian ground forces go to work against Ukrainian units that are increasingly isolated, undersupplied, and undersupported.
Let's move to the ground sectors, starting in the north. Over the week, the North Force Group liberated Gravskoy in Kharkiv Oblast. They report engaging an extraordinary range of units: 4 mechanized brigades, 2 motorized infantry brigades, 1 air assault brigade, 1 artillery brigade, 1 marine brigade, 2 territorial defense brigades, and 2 National Guard brigades. The Ukrainian losses include over 1 Fibr 485 personnel, 15 artillery pieces, including 2 M777 howitzers, and critically, 34 ammunition and material depots. What does the liberation of Gravskoy and the destruction of 34 depots tell us?
Let's start with Gravskoy. Every liberated settlement matters, but Gravskoy's location in Kharkiv Oblast is significant. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second-largest city, and any Russian advance in this region puts pressure on Ukrainian defenses and threatens lines of communication. The fact that Russian forces were able to seize it while simultaneously engaging such a diverse array of Ukrainian units speaks to their operational capability. Now, the 34 ammunition and material depots were destroyed in a single week in one sector. This is staggering. 34 depots represent weeks or months of accumulated supplies: artillery shells, mortar rounds, small arms ammunition, food, fuel, and medical supplies. The loss of these depots creates an immediate logistics crisis for Ukrainian forces in the north. Think about what this means. Frontline units that were expecting resupply will not receive it. They will begin to run out of critical items within days.
And 2 M777 howitzers were destroyed here as well.
The fact that Russian forces could identify and destroy 34 depots in 1 week tells us that their reconnaissance has achieved a high degree of battle space transparency in this sector. They can see Ukrainian rear areas clearly, and they can strike what they see. The M777 is a high-value target. Losing 2 in a week in one sector degrades Ukrainian artillery capability and sends a message to donor nations.
In the West, the West Force Group liberated Karpovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. They engaged 4 mechanized brigades, 1 assault brigade, 1 airmobile brigade, the security brigade of the Ukrainian General Staff, and 2 National Guard brigades. Ukrainian losses include over AUC3I personnel, 20 armored vehicles, including 11 NATO-made, 18 artillery pieces, and 18 ammunition depots. The engagement of the General Staff Security Brigade is particularly notable. Can you expand on what this means?
As we discussed when this unit first appeared in daily briefings, the Security Brigade of the Ukrainian General Staff is responsible for protecting Ukraine's highest military command echelon. Its presence on the front line is a clear indicator of Ukrainian manpower stress. The fact that this brigade appears in the weekly summary engaged in combat and taking losses confirms that this was not a one-day anomaly. Ukraine has been forced to commit its strategic reserve, the unit responsible for protecting the General Staff, to conventional defensive combat. This is a sign of desperation. When you have to use your palace guard to hold the line, you have no more cards to play. The 11 NATO-made armored vehicles destroyed here also tell us that Russian reconnaissance strike complexes are effectively targeting Western-supplied equipment. The liberation of Karpovka, combined with the 18 ammunition depots destroyed, means that Russian forces are both advancing territorially.
In the South Group improved tactical situation and engaged a diverse array of units. 4 mechanized brigades, 1 motorized infantry brigade, 1 airmobile brigade, 1 mountain assault brigade, 1 assault brigade, 1 marine brigade, 1 territorial defense brigade, and 1 National Guard brigade. Ukrainian losses include over 940 personnel, 37 armored vehicles, including 6 Western-made, 15 artillery pieces, and 24 ammunition, fuel, and material depots. The 37 armored vehicles lost is a significant number. What does this tell us?
37 armored vehicles in a single sector in a week represents a major degradation of Ukrainian mechanized capability. These are the platforms that allow Ukrainian infantry to maneuver under protection, to conduct counterattacks, and to hold defensive positions. The fact that 6 of these were Western-made tells us that NATO-supplied vehicles are being actively hunted and destroyed. Each loss is difficult to replace and reduces Ukraine's qualitative edge. The 24 depots destroyed here, ammunition, fuel, and materiel, continue the logistics attrition theme. Fuel depots are particularly critical. Without fuel, armored vehicles are just expensive bunkers. The loss of 24 depots in one sector creates a logistics crisis that will ripple through Ukrainian defenses for weeks.
And 14 electronic warfare and counterfire stations destroyed here as well.
Yes, 14 EW stations in one sector in a week is catastrophic for Ukrainian electronic warfare capabilities. EW is the invisible shield that protects Ukrainian forces from Russian reconnaissance and precision strikes. Losing 14 creates massive windows of vulnerability that Russian forces will exploit.
The Center Group liberated Krasnoznamenka in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, a significant territorial gain, as it's the first liberation of a settlement in Dnipropetrovsk this week. They engaged 5 mechanized brigades, 2 Jaeger brigades, 2 airmobile brigades, 1 air assault brigade, 1 assault regiment, 2 marine brigades, 1 territorial defense brigade, the Azov Special Forces Brigade, and 4 National Guard brigades. Ukrainian losses include over 2,480 personnel, the highest of any sector, 45 armored vehicles, and 8 artillery pieces. What does the liberation of Krasnoznamenka and the high casualty figures tell us?
The liberation of Krasnoznamenka in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast is strategically significant. Dnipropetrovsk is the administrative and logistical heart of Ukrainian defenses in the east. Pushing fighting into Dnipropetrovsk, even just its eastern fringe, puts pressure on critical logistics nodes and threatens the Ukrainian rear area. The 2,480 personnel lost in this sector is the highest of any sector, confirming that the Center Group remains the main effort. The diversity of Ukrainian units engaged, from mechanized to Jaeger to airmobile to marine to Azov to National Guard, tells us that Ukraine is throwing everything it has into this sector. The engagement of the Azov Special Forces Brigade is particularly notable. Azov is a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. Treating them here degrades both combat power and morale. The fact that they are being used in conventional defensive combat rather than their specialized roles is another sign of Ukrainian manpower stress.
The East Group liberated Rizhtvyanka in Zaporizhzhia Oblast and continued advancing to the depths of the enemy's defense. They engaged 3 mechanized brigades, 2 air assault brigades, 1 assault brigade, 5 assault regiments, 1 marine brigade, and 1 territorial defense brigade. Ukrainian losses include over 2 MiMPO-2-205 personnel, 25 armored vehicles, 74 vehicles, and 9 artillery pieces. The language of advancing to the depths of the enemy's defense has been consistent in this sector. What does this sustained deep advance tell us?
The consistent reporting of deep advances in the east tells us that Russian forces have achieved a penetration that they are successfully exploiting. They are not just pushing the line forward, they are operating in the Ukrainian rear area, engaging reserves, disrupting command nodes, and threatening second echelon positions. The engagement of 5 assault regiments is particularly significant. Assault regiments are elite infantry units, trained for the most difficult missions. Their commitment here indicates that Ukraine is throwing its best remaining forces into this sector to try to stem the Russian advance. The fact that they are being attrited, over 2,200 personnel lost, suggests they are not succeeding. The liberation of Rizhdianka, combined with the deep advance language, means that Russian forces are gaining ground and exploiting their success. This sector is a major concern for Ukrainian defensive planners.
The Dnieper Group reports improved tactical situation and engaged 2 mechanized brigades and 1 mountain assault brigade. Ukrainian losses include over 355 personnel, 93 vehicles, 15 electronic warfare and counterfire stations, and 11 ammunition and material depots. The 93 vehicles lost in the sector is striking. What does this tell us?
93 vehicles in a week in the Dnieper sector is a massive loss of logistics and mobility capacity. This suggests that Russian forces have identified Ukrainian supply routes and are systematically targeting transport assets. The 15 EW stations destroyed here is also significant. The Dnieper sector may be quieter in terms of personnel losses, but the degradation of Ukrainian electronic warfare and logistics here will have cascading effects. Without EW protection, Ukrainian units are more vulnerable to Russian reconnaissance and strikes. Without vehicles and depots, they cannot supply themselves or maneuver effectively.
Colonel, let's turn to the operational tactical section. The weekly air defense figures are extraordinary. 241 UAVs, 50 HIMARS rockets, 4 Neptune cruise missiles, and 5 Flamingo cruise missiles intercepted. 2,041 drones in a week. How do we process a number like that?
2,041 UAVs in 7 days means Ukraine is launching, on average, nearly 300 drones per day. This is a massive investment in unmanned warfare. The fact that all 2,041 were reportedly intercepted tells us several things. First, Russian air defense is dense and layered. Long-range S-400s, medium-range Buks, short-range Tors and Pantsers, and extensive electronic warfare are working together to create a comprehensive defensive umbrella. Second, Russian electronic warfare is effective. Many of these drones were likely jammed, their control links disrupted, their navigation signals spoofed, causing them to crash or lose their way before ever reaching their targets. Third, this level of interception represents a significant failure for Ukraine's drone campaign. If you launch 2,041 drones and all are intercepted, you have expended enormous resources for zero effect. This is not sustainable. The 50 HIMARS rockets intercepted is also significant. HIMARS was once considered nearly unstoppable.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that the fact that Russia is consistently intercepting them, 50 in a week, suggests their counter-rocket capabilities have matured significantly. The interception of 4 Neptune and 5 Flamingo cruise missiles demonstrates that Russian air defense can also handle larger, more complex threats. Neptune is a Ukrainian-designed anti-ship missile adapted for land attack. Flamingo is a long-range cruise missile. Intercepting them requires advanced radar and interceptor missiles.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.